We're going to be taking a look now on pages Access 40 and 41, in which we're going to be applying OR criteria. You use OR criteria when any one criterion must be true in order for the record to be selected. Enter OR criteria on different criteria rows of the query design grid. As you add rows of OR criteria to the query design grid, you increase the number of records selected for the resulting data sheet because the records needs to match only one of the criteria rows to be selected for the data sheet. In step 1 on page Access 40, it tells us that we want to right-click the Adventure FL query, and that was the one that we used in our last video there. And when we right-click on this in the navigation pane, we're going to click on Copy. And of course, once we copy this, then we're going to right-click a blank spot in the navigation pane, just any place that we can find on there, and then we're going to click on Paste. And when we do this, we have a Paste As, and we're going to paste this as Adventure Cultural FL. And then we're going to click on OK. And of course now we'll notice that the new query has been created. Now by copying the Adventure Florida query before starting your modifications, you avoid changing the Adventure Florida query by mistake. Now we can right-click the Adventure Cultural FL, and then we can go straight to the design view. We don't have to open it up and then go to the design view. We can go straight to the design view here. And of course, we have all of our modifications that we made in our last video. And now what we're going to do is, we're going to click the second criteria cell for the category field. So right underneath Adventure on here, we're going to type in Cultural. And then we're going to click on the View button. Now you'll notice that earlier we only had very few records, but now we have more records because we added in OR criteria that's on there. Because now the query selected 11 records, including all of the tours with the cultural in the category field. Now note that some of the duration values are greater than 7, and some of the state abbreviation values are not FL, because each row of the query grid is evaluated separately. All cultural tours are selected regardless of criteria in any other row. In other words, the criteria in one row have no effect on the criteria of other rows. To make sure that the cultural rows are also in Florida and also have a duration of less than or equal to 7 days, you need to modify the second row of the criteria grid, or the OR row, to specify the criteria. So we need to go down to step 3 and click the View button to go back to the design view. So once again, just taking a look on here, when we go to this first criteria row, it has to meet all of these factors to be shown. But when we add in something else like this cultural, it only has to meet this to be shown as well. So it has to meet all 3 of these factors to be shown, or it has to meet this factor to be shown as well. But however, we want to add in some more AND criteria to make this a little bit more specific. So to do this, we're going to click on the second criteria cell in the duration field, and we're going to type in the less than or equal to 7, just like we did earlier. Now, you might be saying, well, why do I have to retype it again? Because remember that it looks at each row separately. So if you want this cultural to be less than or 7, you have to type that in on the same row. Then next, in the second one on here, the second criteria cell in the state abbreviation field, you have to type in FL. And then you can click on any other criteria cell that's on there. And this is what your query design view should look like. Now, of course, a quick tip on there, the datasheet design and other view buttons are also located in the lower right-hand corner of the Access window as well. So you see right over here, there is the datasheet view, there's the SQL view, and there's the design view, which we're currently in. You notice that it's in a darker black, it's highlighted in darker black. Next, on step 4, it tells us that we want to click the View button up here again to go back to our datasheet view. And now you notice that we went from 11 records, and now we're located 6 records on here as well. And these 6 records are selected that meet all 3 criteria as entered on one row or on row 2 of the query grid. Now step 5 tells us that we want to click the Adventure Cultural Florida Query tab and click on Close, and then yes, and close the query data sheet. And that concludes the information that's on pages Access 40 and 41. And in our next and last video, we're going to be formatting a data sheet.